Hello everybody and welcome to Notorious Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm Notorious Cly, and the new Resonator Red Dragon Archfiend support cards are coming to Master Duel. Here's what you need to know. Soul Resonator is a level 3 Fire Fiend tuner that can search any level 4 or lower fiend when it's normal or special summoned. Using this effect locks you into dark synchros from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. Also, while Soul is in the graveyard, and you control Red Dragon Archfiend, or a synchro monster that mentions it, you can banish it to protect cards you control from being destroyed. Soul is a breath of fresh air for the strategy, bringing one-card combos when it's used as a starter, while also bringing valuable extension when it's normal search targets in your hand, or if it's special summoned off of Crimson Resonator. Seeing Soul or access to Soul in your opening hand all but guarantees you the opportunity to play, since Soul can always find its non-tuner counterpart for synchro summoning. Finding Soul is a task that has been made easy thanks to Resonator Call and other new arrivals Crimson Gaia and Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper. All of these searchers allow you to effectively play 12 copies of Soul Resonator, giving you an 85% chance to see it in your starting hand. There's one thing I'd like to touch on with Soul Resonator's graveyard effect, because it echoes a common theme you'll see amongst these new support cards. Red Dragon Archfiend, or a synchro monster that mentions it, is a phrase that is easy enough to understand, but may trip up newer players or players not familiar with the strategy. To make it easy on everyone, I've decided to dedicate the next few seconds of this video to the topic. Here is Red Dragon Archfiend. Here are monsters that's name become Red Dragon Archfiend while they are on the field. Here are synchro monsters that mention Red Dragon Archfiend. Here is Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, whose effect text mentions Red Dragon Archfiend monsters, which is different than Red Dragon Archfiend. It's like that weird square rectangle square thing from geometry class. Red Dragon Archfiend is also a Red Dragon Archfiend monster, but Red Dragon Archfiend monsters may not always be Red Dragon Archfiend. That was a very long and convoluted way of saying Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane does not qualify for the Red Dragon Archfiend or a synchro monster that mentions it clause. Overall, Soul is a wonderful piece of legacy support that addresses a lot of the core issues the strategy had prior. But it does have one downside. It's level 3. Fortunately, Soul's best non-tuner search target fixes that issue. Bone Archfiend is a level 4 Dark Fiend that can special summon itself from the hand or graveyard by sending a card from your hand or field to the graveyard. Using this effect locks you into Dark Dragon synchros from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. While on field, you can target a monster you control, send a fiend tuner from your deck to the graveyard, then modulate the level of the targeted monster up or down by 1. Bone's level modulation solves Soul's level 3 issue. But wait, there's more. It also provides the strategy an easy way to work Crimson Resonator into rotation. Normal Soul, Soul Search Bone, Bone Special itself, Bone Target Soul, Dump Crimson, modulate the level down to 2, synchro for Red Rising Dragon, bring back Crimson Resonator. Bone's effect to special summon itself should not be slept on. Bone can special itself from hand or graveyard. Once you work Bone Archfiend in a rotation, you have it for the rest of the duel. Bone's base level being level 4 also means it plays nicely with the strategy's other best starter in Crimson Resonator. Vision Resonator is a level 2 Dark Fiend tuner that can special summon itself from the hand if there's a level 5 or higher dark monster on the field, yours or your opponent's, and can search any spell or trap that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend. Gee, I wonder if anyone made a video going over every Vision Resonator search target. That would be cool. Vision replaces Red Resonator as the second best level 2 Resonator. Sorry, bud. Vision's effects are simple and straightforward, but provide more value than they let on. A free level 2 extender from the hand is a great way to turn any of the level 8 Dark Dragon synchros into Bestial's Potter or Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane. Additionally, the search of archetypical spells or traps gives the strategy access to a ton of utility or spot removal thanks to Crimson Gaia, Red Zone, and Fiendish Golem, the 3 newest and best members of these spells or traps that mention Red Dragon Archfiend Club. Crimson Gaia is a continuous spell that can add a card that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend from your deck or graveyard to your hand, add Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard back to your hand, Flip all of your opponent's monsters face down when Red Dragon Archfiend declares an attack. Special summon Red Dragon Archfiend from your graveyard when a monster is destroyed by battle or a card effect. Gaia's primary purpose is to serve as 3 additional copies of Soul Resonator, but contained in that wall of text is actually a ton of utility. Gaia can search and is searchable by Vision Resonator, giving the strategy easy access to a level 2 extender. Let's not forget that Gaia can search cards that mention Red Dragon Archfiend though. This allows Gaia to masquerade as Vision and search the other archetypical spells and traps we have at our disposal. Gaia's ability to recycle resources from your graveyard back to the hand all but assures you will have access to whatever you need whenever you need it. When going second, Gaia creates an immense amount of pressure for your opponent anytime you manage to put 8 levels of synchro material on the field. Flipping all of your opponent's monsters face down when Red Dragon Archfiend attacks turns the OG Red Dragon Archfiend into a Regeki. The utility of the book effect isn't locked behind the original Red Dragon Archfiend though. Remember, there are 2 other monsters who are treated as Red Dragon Archfiend while in the field. While they may not be able to clear the field, they could still flip everything down. Summoning back Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard anytime a monster is destroyed is a wonderful way to push for OTKs when you're the one attacking, or guard against OTKs when you're the one being attacked. Red Zone is a continuous trap that can summon a banished Dark Dragon Synchro monster. Destroy a card on the field when your opponent activates an effect, provided you control Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it. Red Zone is just a searchable, slower, more conditional Bestial Despotter printed on purple cardboard. Oh, wait, this is Master Duel. With purple pixels. Turns out that's good enough to be included in a deck list. The effect to resummon banished Dark Dragon Synchros allows you to double up on the soft once per turn effect of Red Supernova Dragon. It can also recur big bodies put in the banish zone intentionally by you or by your opponent. The destruction effect is a welcome form of interaction that pulls double duty when you remember a monster being destroyed will allow Gaia to bring back Red Dragon Archfiend. There's not much else to say here about Red Zone. It's a trap card, it's useful, and it's searchable. Fiendish Golem is a normal trap card that can banish a monster with 2,000 or more attack. Then, set Fiendish Chain from your deck or graveyard if you control Red Dragon Archfiend or a Synchro monster that mentions it. Fiendish is a little less useful than Red Zone, but is novel enough and synergistic enough to warrant play. Seeing Bestial Despotter on the end of the field at the end of a Red Dragon Archfiend combo is now a common occurrence. Having access to Fiendish Golem essentially guarantees Despotter's effect will be live at some point during the turn. Turns out that synergy, being non-destruction removal, and being searchable is good enough for this card to see play. Oh, I think we should probably address the elephant in the room too. Fiendish Chain being set to the field by this effect is really cool from a card design perspective, but that doesn't make Fiendish Chain good enough to play, especially since you can't immediately activate the Fiendish Chain you just set. Scar Red Dragon Archfiend is a level 8 Dark Dragon Synchro that is treated as Red Dragon Archfiend on the field or in the graveyard. Can summon Red Dragon Archfiend from the extra deck if it is sent to the graveyard. Destroys all your opponent's deck position monsters if it is sent to the graveyard as synchro material. Scar Red fills the gap left in the extra deck, and my heart, from the banning of Chaos Rule, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. Scar Red is a level 8 body that replaces itself, puts pressure on your opponent by threatening a Lightning Storm type effect, and synergizes perfectly with all of our new archetypical spells and traps because it is both a monster named Red Dragon Archfiend and a synchro monster that mentions Red Dragon Archfiend. Absolute Power Force was not shown among the educated guesses for cards being released in Master Duel, but I feel obligated here to mention it since it was released with the rest of these cards in the OCG and TCG. As cool as the name is, don't play Absolute Power Force. It's a noob trap. Turning a Red Dragon Archfiend into a worse version of Chaos Max isn't a good effect. That's what you need to know about the new cards. I would like to take a few minutes to talk about them in the context of a Red Dragon Archfiend deck and Master Duel as a whole. You may be thinking to yourself right now, these cards look pretty cool and fun, but how many of each should I play? Here are the ratios I've settled on after playing with these cards in the TCG almost exclusively for the last 5 months. Alright, now that I know how many of the new cards I need to pull, what should the rest of the deck look like? Here's a few of my personal deck cores and some filled out deck lists. I've seen a fair amount of success with these lists, and if it brings you any comfort, they're pretty close to the consensus ratios that the rest of the community has settled on. Playing the shown deck core will leave you with roughly 16 non-engine slots. These can be filled with extra extenders like the Supe package, or with your usual non-engine staples and hand traps. Alright, that looks good, but if I want to experiment or mix things up, can I? Do these new cards pair well with any other decks or archetypes? Kind of. Logging yourself into Dark Synchros or Dark Dragon Synchros from the extra deck really limits Resonator Red Dragon Archfiend's crossover potential. There are a few pairings that have promise or are interesting enough to try, I think. The most cohesive pairing is probably with the Bestials. There is no direct synergy between the two. One engine doesn't smoothly flow into the next, but there are enough small incidental synergies that make the pairing worth considering. The Bestials are individually powerful, each one representing a potential graveyard disruption, a beefy body, and additional utility. Their levels, 6 and 8, pair nicely with the Resonators for synchro plays. The Resonator engine has an easy time putting dark monsters in the graveyard, and high level dragon monsters on the field for the level 6s and Lubellion respectively. The Bestials mostly play out of the main deck, which works well with the restrictions the Resonator engine puts on the extra deck, and the only extra deck Bestial monster happens to be one the Resonator engine wants to make anyways. With Bestial Despotter being a mainstay of Resonator end boards, Lubellion placing Branded Beast on your side of the field can net you one more interaction. Alternatively, Lubellion placing Branded Regained has the potential to let you squeeze a little more value out of something like a Fiendish Golem. Bestial Red Dragon Archfiend's big flashy play, you'll see from every clickbait Yugi tuber out there, is using Lubellion to place a 2 to the Branded, then using a 2 to summon Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity on your opponent's turn, effectively locking them out of playing the game. I've never been a fan of this interaction because 1. Fuck floodgates. 2. I find joy in out-interacting and maneuvering my opponent. 3. Setting up the Calamity lock relies on you going first, and significantly watering down your end board, which will leave you vulnerable if your opponent has any answer for a toot. 4. Setting up the Calamity lock almost always requires you to resolve Crimson Resonator's effect. Going first, successfully resolving Crimson, and then winning the game has never really been an issue for Resonator Red Dragon Archfiend. And 5. If this interaction was really that powerful, it would have seen play in the TCG or OCG. The only deck Calamity locking folks in these formats was Centurion, and that deck was decent, but not great. In Master Duel's Best of 1, the Calamity lock may be slightly more effective because sideboarded answers do not exist. But do you really want to click buttons and win, or do you want to play Yu-Gi-Oh? To me, the reason to play the Bestial version lies in the value they bring and the comfort in having a solid secondary game plan if your synchro plays fail. The pairing that I'm most intrigued by is Labyrinth Resonators. There was a Labyrinth list in the OCG that saw some success using Soul as a searcher for furniture cards. I like the idea and am currently working to see if it can be expanded past playing 2 copies of Soul Resonator. The most competitive success the Resonators have seen is in the TCG, being used as a small engine of Vision, Gaia, and Scar Red to generate card advantage and bodies. This version is off the table at the moment for Master Duel because the Horus cards have not been released yet. Those of you who know me know I'm a big fan of properly setting expectations. I don't sell hype, I don't sell clickbait. The new cards we detailed today do a great job of modernizing and streamlining Resonator Red Dragon Archfiend. However, they do not address the strategy's core weakness, an over-reliance on Crimson Resonator resolving its effect to summon other Resonators. The strategy is now incredibly competent at finding Crimson Resonator and setting it up to activate its effect, but struggles to pivot into meaningful interaction if Crimson fails to resolve. The Crimson Resonator choke point is incredibly fragile, and any one of these hand traps answer it. Due to this weakness, the deck is not going to be a meta contender, and will not be meta relevant. It's a playable off-meta deck. It's not all doom and gloom though. Off-meta decks with a consistent, cohesive game plan and room for non-engine can climb the ranked ladder. Getting Resonator Red Dragon Archfiend to Master Rank should be possible, provided you are resilient enough to keep going next after Crimson Resonator fails to resolve for the 47th time. If you're interested in watching someone attempt to pilot this deck all the way to Master 1, subscribe to the channel. I plan on live streaming gameplay and posting gameplay videos. Thanks for watching What You Need to Know. I'll see you on the next one. Be safe, have fun, everybody.